Hello, everyone. I'm Colin Tessier of WrestleZone.com, joined by John Clark tonight to talk about WWE NXT. John, how you doing?
Doing pretty good. It was a pretty good show. How are you?
I couldn't agree more. Doing pretty well, and it was a fun episode of NXT. Definitely lots to get into here. Before we do, just want to remind you all that this show, like everything we do here at WrestleZone, is available on any number of streaming platforms, whether it's SoundCloud, Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, whatever it may be. We've got you covered. So, John, this was the go-home show before NXT TakeOver 36 on Sunday, SummerSlam weekend here. Lots of wrestling to enjoy this weekend. And for here, obviously, the NXT show, we can definitely look forward to TakeOver on this very loaded weekend. So on a go-home show, as you would expect, lots of last-minute hype, lots of, emphasis of maybe some of the stories we've already been seeing, but some other things that to definitely kind of look forward to as well. So Nestor's already pointing out Index. Don't you worry, we'll talk all about Index here. Because for me that was my favorite part of the show. But I guess let's work backwards. Let's like build up the suspense there at least for a minute. So let's start with this main event angle here between Samoa Joe, Karrion Kross, NXT champion Karrion Kross here. He'll be defending the title against Samoa Joe. Joe's first match since February of 2020. Definitely a special occasion there. So they definitely had this, chaotic brawl to close the show, a confrontation. One interesting line that they didn't really elaborate on was Karrion Kross saying that this match isn't about him or Samoa Joe. He was saying it's about the future of the brand. And now, of course, John, you and I have been talking about it for a couple weeks now, that, especially since Kross debuted on the main roster and he's been pulling double duty here. Definitely a fair question to ask what the future of the brand might be in terms of, if Kross wins on Sunday, or if Kross loses, and that may mean that he was going to be moving up full time here. But definitely a chaotic and wild brawl here to close the show. Definitely, it left me hyped up for this match on Sunday. John, what are you thinking about this main event match / angle here?
I think it's going to be pretty good. I kind of, well, not kind of, I am hoping that Samoa Joe comes out on top. To me, that makes the most sense. Of course, Karrion Kross is not to be taken lightly as well. Of course, the chance where is Scarlett? What do you think about that?
If I was there, I'd be chanting right along with them. I mean, it was one thing when you call Samoa Joe up, or not, God, my goodness, call Karrion Kross up to the main roster for Raw, and you don't bring Scarlett with them if they want to present him differently. Like we've talked about on the Raw show. At first, it seems like they're presenting him as this kind of gladiator thing, and if they feel like Scarlett doesn't match that, whatever, that's their prerogative, and we don't have to like it. It gets rolled.
There is a strict no NXT rule for the WrestleZone Universal Rankings. However, an exception was made because Karrion Kross is pretty much a dual guy now. He's Raw and NXT. So he is actually number 24 on the rankings this week. First time in the history of the rankings that a NXT superstar has made the charts. Of course, I think because of that push he's been getting and the way he's been utilized, I do see him losing the title. But like you mentioned, he's saying for the future of the brand. To me, Samoa Joe is, of course, a big guy, but he's definitely not young by any means. He's probably like double the age of what they're looking for. So, but I was concerning to not see Scarlett because she's been an NXT thing, and it was almost like Vince stepped in and was like, I don't want her with him on the main roster, so you need to get them acquainted to that on NXT also at the same time. So it's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I know I haven't missed Scarlett in terms of, I just think that she and Karrion are great together. I think she really elevates his presentation. They're like puzzle pieces, right? I think that they both just play off each other so well, and Kross has still been doing great. I've enjoyed him on NXT at least, as this kind of flying solo, but I think he's even better when he's got Scarlett by his side. I just think I really like their presentation there. Definitely had a lot of comments suggesting, predicting, hoping that Samoa Joe will win on Sunday. Nish Kerr saying it, Bette Milligan saying it. And Steven Chambers saying I believe Joe should win, but if he loses, I wonder if he'll go with the main roster. I don't think so. I like that would be pretty jarring to me. He gets fired, he comes back to NXT, and he's been on this kind of like this comeback tour in NXT, and then to see him go up to the main roster, and the fact that we saw his last main roster run, granted injuries were a big factor, but I think his best usage here is in NXT. Johnny just mentioned the age factor is one thing. And I think on NXT that could kind of work in his favor, him being kind of the veteran guy there that has his name already made for himself. I think that would be pretty weird to see Joe go up to NXT there, go up to the main roster there, whereas Cross is already, pretty much on Raw, so losing the title on Sunday would kind of set up a full-time move there. DJ Tessier saying, I see Cross losing, especially them already being up on Raw, but he's wondering where Scarlett is. Is she finally going to return and be running solo in NXT? Or maybe she'll get released. I don't want to speculate on that, but I don't know. Maybe, I thought I remember seeing that she was doing some main event matches on her own, so I think that's possible. I just don't know. I haven't really heard much about this, so I can't really, quote unquote, report anything or say that like I'm hearing any rumors. Even she's just, as far as I know, just not been used, and I don't know why. And I think that's a shame for whatever the reason might be. I hope that she'll be back in the fold as soon as possible. That's all I can really say about it. Like I said, I think that she's a great personality and talent in general. So I think she's great with carrying across, and I think she could do all on her own as well. So we just kind of have to wait and see what happens with that. But yes, I would definitely think that Joe winning would be the better call. I don't think it, but it doesn't necessarily feel like it's a guarantee either way. It does feel like Cross could win. I think that'd be somewhat surprising, but like I said, it's not a it's not a shoe-in either. I think that it is definitely kind of one of those title matches that you kind of, this is what we want to see. For me, at least, I see a title match, and if I don't have a solid idea about who's going to win, that's what I want. Right? I want some of that disbelief. That's what we hear. That's to me one of the best things of wrestling. It's like you got to wait, you got to watch and see what happens, right? So I would predict Joe winning, but I would not be all too surprised if Cross won. So I think that'll be a great main event, and very much looking forward to it. Don't want to bury the lead too much because I wanted to make sure we get to talk a good amount about it, because I know, John, you've got some thoughts. Index got engaged tonight. Love was in the air, and it was a beautiful thing. I mean, my gosh, I know that some weeks here we're a little down. We're a little harsh on WWE in general. But between RK Bro reuniting last night, which we talked about last night for Raw, now you've got Index getting engaged here and having this fun story going pretty strong here. And SmackDown doing some good things as well for Roman Reigns, John Cena. This is good. I like it. I've been here for it all along. They lost me in terms of being hopeful about it, where they had dropped it, for a couple weeks there. But then the Index came back, and we got some talk about the date last week. That tonight they're recapping that. I'm not going to go too far into it, but basically Johnny Gargano asked how Dexter liked the cake, and Indy said, well, he had room for pie. So read into that what you will. But that was oh boy, man! I just think this is so much fun. I'm enjoying it a lot. And yes, as Michael Covenant pointing out, this is supposedly going to be the first NXT wedding, but obviously it's pro wrestling. Definitely room for shenanigans, and that's what CM Chambers is saying. But we got a mixed tag team match: Index versus Robert Stone and Jesse Kamea. This was kind of set up when Robert Stone set up a fake dating profile online here, trying to kind of drive a wedge between Index. As you might expect, Index won. After the match, Indy Hartwell got on the knee, popped the question, and Dexter just nodded along, and I guess that's good enough for saying yes. And there we go. These two are engaged. They are to be wed, and it's a beautiful thing. I thought this was great. The crowd went nuts. I didn't expect it tonight. I thought they'd draw it out a little more, but I was pleasantly surprised. John, and I know you've got thoughts, and I'd love to hear them.
Oh, this is very interesting because the first ever NXT wedding is possible, but at the same time, it's like, well, this isn't something that NXT is known for, because if they're going to go back to that old school style wrestling, and a wedding is definitely not what you're going to do. That seems like a main roster thing. But at the same time, I'm thinking they're speeding this along. It looks like we're going to get that typical shenanigans. Somebody's going to interfere. I assume Johnny Gargano. Of course, we're not going to see Candice turn on Indy because she really can't compete right now. So what's the end game here? What do you think this ends like?
I mean, I guess Gargano ruining it somehow would make sense. He immediately tweeted kind of like create like a shocked reaction and not seeing it coming. So kind of planting that seed that the rest of the way here, Johnny and namely Johnny, maybe Candice as well, not being on board with this. So maybe some shenanigans, centered around Johnny Gargano ruining the wedding somehow. I think there's an outside chance to actually go through with it and have a wedding, actually happen, and I think that's
Indy,
unlikely.
Indy Loomis.
Yeah, who knows, right? Maybe hey, WWE changes names all the time, so wouldn't be all that hard. But I mean, we've been seeing this. They have been a couple. They were wearing the matching Index shirts tonight, so crazy things have happened. I mean, wrestling 2021, you never know what to expect. But
It's so different because we've gotten word from reliable sources that next week's show will not be live. They're going to tape two shows. They're going to tape two shows Monday and one show Tuesday, and then go live again in 3 weeks, is what we saw. So the fact that we're going to know already next week what's going to happen, basically for the next three shows, we'll have an idea what direction they're going pretty quickly.
Yeah, it's. I can't, speaking of what we're talking about, Dex Loomis having cake, I can't have my cake and eat it too. I know that the last time we talked about spoilers, I complained about it. If it's a show that I really care about, like I'm invested in, I don't want spoilers because I want to watch it unfold. If it's another show, I'm not going to name the companies, but there are some companies that tape shows and I don't care as much. If it's my job to write up the results of these tapings, so it's fine. I see them, and sometimes I like the results and I'm like, oh, I get to know what's going to happen without having to watch the show. But in this case, I don't want to know what's going to happen. I want to see it actually unfold, right? So that's neither here or there. We are going to probably find out whatever does happen at the tapings, and that would mean, that's 3 weeks of shows. So, call it what, next Monday or Tuesday, we're going to know kind of the next roughly month of content before it even airs. And it's just the nature of the beast at this point. So spoilers are going to get out there, and they're pretty hard to avoid, especially in our line of work. So it is interesting, especially all the speculation about NXT contracts, Adam Cole, Pete Dunne, John. I think you had tweeted the other day that in theory, well, actually no, I guess Cole's contract expires SummerSlam weekend, so they're taping on Monday and Tuesday.
Yeah, see, we don't know the exact date. In theory, let's say that he did agree to go till Monday or Tuesday. They could at least have him do a promo or whatever. They could drag it out the next couple weeks. We don't know the status of Pete Dunne. We could assume after tonight's promo that he's probably sticking around, or maybe his contract doesn't expire for a couple weeks. But yeah, my theory was that if Cole did indeed, if this was it, which I think after TakeOver we'll have a very good idea if this is really done or not. But I could see them doing something where it was like a farewell, just to like tape ahead next couple weeks and kind of do something like that.
Yeah, I could see that, and I don't know what that would look like. I don't know if it would be better. Let's say that if he does leave, we don't know if he is. If he does leave, if he does not resign or negotiate a new deal, would it be better if he loses on Sunday just to have him kind of ride off in the sunset like that, or to do some kind of angle on an episode of NXT? I don't really know. I don't know what the answer to that question is, but it's definitely food for thought there. Neshkurs thinks she thinks that Adam Cole's leaving. I don't know. This is definitely one of those situations where it does feel very up in the air, conflicting reports about WWE negotiating, and I guess he was on Twitch yesterday saying he's not going to get rid of his Twitch channel, and that's been a point of contention and for other wrestlers in WWE, whether or not they're allowed to use third-party platforms like that. We've seen that before, so I just don't know. And now it's TakeOvers on Sunday, and it definitely does feel like one of those matches where the result will seemingly indicate what's going to happen behind the scenes, right? In terms of not or not, we'll be able to kind of I guess assume, right? If Cole wins, maybe we'll see him sticking around. So wouldn't
Another big indication is the fact that they're filming 3 weeks of NXT the next two nights, and if he's not even mentioned or on any of those 3 episodes, I think it's also safe to assume that he's either legitimately taking his time to think about it, is leaving, or is going to the main roster, which we would then know within the next couple weeks. So we said last week that we think this weekend we'll know what's going to happen. I still think this weekend we're going to know what's going to happen, but I'm surprised that there hasn't been more news or reports unless he legitimately just is taking his time to think about what he wants to do.
Yeah, as we've said it before, but there's just no way to know what any one person, what any wrestler or anybody is thinking at any point. Of course, this is a big decision for him, and any number of factors that I'm sure we can't even name at this point. So I just don't know. And John, you mentioned all those possibilities. Like maybe he won't even leave right away. Maybe he'll take time to think about it. Maybe he will go to the main roster. I really just don't know. Definitely curious to see how it goes. Did you guys say pointing out, John, I think you've mentioned this in the past weeks here, just in the build up to this match. But if the idea is that Cole even could leave, or once they figured out that his contract is expiring, why not turn it into a kind of loser leaves NXT match? We've seen that done before in NXT history here. For me, it's just they've reached, we talked about it before as well, this point of like, is NXT a third brand? Is it developmental? And that kind of muddies the waters for this kind of stipulation where it's like, okay, loose leaves NXT, like, it's weird to have that stipulation, because then it's like, if it's a developmental brand, as a fan, you're like, okay, they're not actually going to leave. But then you factor in this contract situation. It is definitely kind of murky like that. So
I think it was too late, and it would have made it way too predictable, because if they would have had that match, then you know for sure he's going to lose that match and leave.
Yeah, and now they don't have that stipulation to it, so it does feel more unpredictable, and I think it definitely works in its favor. While we're talking about it, they did have a prime target video package for the slash promo segment here for this match. NXT always does this very well. Nothing groundbreaking, just two good promos from Cole and O'Reilly kind of spliced together. O'Reilly saying that this is the undisputed finale, and he wants to kind of prove himself here. Against Adam Cole. Adam Cole saying that, again, O'Reilly wouldn't be anything without him and all that kind of stuff. Because the theme of the night was some of these stories that they've been telling for the past couple weeks, maybe kind of just hammering them in, on this Go Home show to kind of really emphasize that's the story they're telling. So I thought, as always, these prime target segments are good. I like this a lot. I look forward to it. It's going to be I think it's going to be a great match. That we've talked about before. Is it a feud that's needed to go on this long? No. They've already had two high-profile matches. But again, if Cole is leaving, I think this is probably the best way they could, write him out at this point. So not hard to complain too much there. I'm looking forward to it. And of course, I'm definitely curious as always to see what's going to happen. Again, not even in the story, but in terms of Cole leaving or going to the main roster, who even knows at this point. So that's definitely another match I have my, I guess kind of circled on the card here, just in terms of what I'm really looking forward to for Sunday. Another match we had tonight was to open the show. We were supposed to have a cruiserweight title match with Kushida and Roderick Strong. Shortly before the show, they announced that Kushida was not medically cleared to compete, so we got a Diamond Mine or a Roderick Strong Open challenge, answered by Ilya Dragunov. The guy will be challenging Walter for the NXT UK Championship on Sunday. Dragunov lost to Pete Dunne last week, but it was a very good match, and kind of for that reason, I definitely thought he was going to win this one. There's no way that he'd lose twice, and he didn't. He won a very physical, stiff match. Not the best, outcome for Roderick Strong, but nothing wrong with losing a match like this. Hard fought. Ilya Dragunov was bleeding profusely by the end. Definitely just very gritty like that. Definitely a brutal image.
Looked like the side of his head.
Yeah, and he was just bleeding on Strong. Definitely like the kind of thing you don't really see all too often in 21 WWE here at this point. But I liked it a lot. I thought it was a good match. We said we were talking about it last week. I thought it was good to have this second week in a row to kind of really establish Ilya Dragunov for the primary NXT audience rather than the NXT UK fans, people that watch that show regularly. For me, as someone that doesn't watch NXT UK, 2 weeks in a row seeing him put on a good match. Now I'm like, okay, cool. We're gonna see this guy on Sunday. He's gonna face Walter. We saw Walter tonight. Walter, Dragunov called Walter out after this match. Walter didn't come out. Then later in the show, he was backstage with Imperium saying, "Tonight it's not about me. It's about Imperium winning the tag titles." And then, of course, he did come out to brawl with Dragunov, or I should say Dragunov attacked him, and then eventually Walter and Imperium stood tall. So, some last minute build for that. Yet again, I read an interview with Walter here saying it basically, yet again, that he's not really interested in coming to the States to be on NXT. And I think that's a shame. Every time I see him, the guy.
But what's intriguing about that is that if they are going to be filming NXT 3 or 4 shows at a time, theoretically, he could make the trek over once a month.
That is a silver lining. That is definitely a positive potential aspect of the fact they will be going back to block tapings, at least for now, that they could kind of have access to Walter. Some of the people that may not be able to be at the weekly tapings. I mean, that's definitely something to think about. I guess I hadn't really considered that. If that's the way to get Walter to be on NXT more regularly, I'd be happy with that. or at the very least, maybe he'll do the taping. This block tapings after TakeOver because it'll be a TakeOver anyway. I think that's pretty fair to think, or if not assume, just kind of wonder. But no, every time I see him, I think I really wish that Walter would be on NXT, the primary brand more. He looks like a beast. He wrecked MSK after their tag title match. He's got a great presence, great size, just definitely a throwback in that sense. Brutal chops. Every time I see him, definitely want to see him more. So I in the short term, I think it's fair to think he might be sticking around because of those block tapings right after TakeOver there. But MSK, while we're talking about it, did retain the tag titles against Imperium. Great match, two great teams. I liked it a lot. I briefly kind of thought, oh, maybe Imperium will get the win here, and they definitely had a very convincing, if not near fall, kind of a fake out where Walter came down and kind of distracted MSK, and it looked like they were that Imperium was going to take the win because of them. But then Ilya came down and distracted Imperium kind of indirectly there. So then MSK won anyway. But Imperium has definitely been impressing me lately. I wouldn't mind seeing them win the titles at some point soon, to kind of, especially in a world where Walter does stick around. But at the very least, they're a very solid team in this tag division here. And then I guess kind of beyond them, you do have some other options with Hit Row, who we'll talk about. You've got Legato still hanging around there. Not too. I mean, you still have Ciampa and Thatcher as well, but they could probably use a fresh team or two to shake it up, maybe. But I thought that was a good match, and the image of Imperium standing tall despite the loss was good. And like I said, I'd be happy to see them get a rematch at some point, potentially with the outcome going the other way. What do you think about this, John?
There are many options they could go here. This has been pretty intriguing so far. I mean, if you had to pick a favorite in all this, who are you going with personally? Who would you say?
For the tag, like for what?
Yeah, to come out really when this is all said and done as the top dog, like the basically the champs. I mean, because there's so much in play here. Basically, who's next in line? You think to win?
To win. I think to kind of maybe even segue here, DJ Tessier asking about Hit Row Legato next week. I think they're likely going to have Hit Row win next week to kind of establish them, potentially, if they really want to, Ashanti the Adonis and Top Dollar, maybe establishing them as a duo. We've seen them in tag team match, and I think they faced Legato a couple weeks ago. So maybe that'd be kind of quick. Maybe they could build that up throughout the fall. I don't know. That would be a little sudden. I don't want to discount Grizzled Young Veterans. Stephen Chambers reminding me here that Grizzled Young Veterans are still there as well. Maybe they could finally get their moment. They've definitely had what's the name? They're always they never get their moment, right? They're always so close. They make it to the finals of the Dusty Cup, and they challenge for their titles, but they never get the actual moment. They're always like just the runner up. So always the bridesmaid of the bride. That's the saying I was going for. But for me, I definitely would. Based on what we've been seeing, I think her would make sense. Wouldn't mind seeing Legato kind of, I guess, kind of rebuild or retool to kind of like gain momentum again. I don't know. We've already seen Ciampa and Thatcher come and go, or not come and go, but challenge and fall. I don't know. I mean, or maybe they could form another team or bring somebody in. But for that reason, I guess MSK does feel kind of firmly in place as champions for now.
I agree.
I did think Imperium had a shot tonight, but and maybe, like I said, if they get a rematch, maybe again, if Walter's sticking around, maybe it helps them win the titles, to kind of keep MSK looking strong. But otherwise, maybe you build up Hit Row or something like that.
Going back to the fact that they're filming 3 shows ahead of time, I think we'll have a very good idea next week this time where exactly they're taking NXT in the future, because we'll have 3 weeks of shows to look at and see what they're going to be doing. And I think at that point, we'll know how drastic these changes really are.
Yeah, I agree. And that's a solid month. So definitely a good indicator of just kind of the at least short-term future about where NXT is going. DJ asking why that 6-man tag between Hit Row and Legato was on Tuesday on NXT and not on TakeOver. I think they like to keep the TakeOver cards fairly short. So there's 5 matches John's indicating. So yeah, 5 matches, right? And I guess I can't really think of a match they have on the card right now that could get bumped. I mean, they've got the $1 million title match. They've got the women's title match, NXT title match. No,
The UK title match.
UK title match, and
then are they doing the finals of the tournament or not?
no, that's next week as well. So
Okay, so it's just the 3 stages of hell match is the 5th.
that's right. So, I mean, I think they could have easily put the 6-man there, even on the kind of kickoff show. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's just one of the things where maybe they wanted to put it on the NXT show next week. Maybe try to, I don't want to say pop a rating because it's not like some title match or anything, but no, just to have that kind of as a highlight for next week. Or I don't know, maybe when they were planning it, maybe they thought they'd be able to do the Cruiserweight title match tonight, and then I would kind of push the 6-man next week. I don't really know. That is a good question. I'm sure that maybe by putting on the show next week, they're going to have more time than they might on the pay-per-view. So that's something as well. So that'll be on the show next week. One match will be on the show on Sunday, the $1 million championship match between Cameron Grimes and LA Knight, with the stipulation being that if Knight wins, Ted DiBiase will be his new butler. So we got to see a pretty fun, harmless match here where Knight kind of set Grimes up to have a match with Josh Briggs. Basically, that he was in the gym and kind of recruited Josh Briggs to kind of soften Grimes up for Sunday. Grimes won. Ted DiBiase was on commentary, and he wound up kind of wagering Knight and betting on this match, saying that if Grimes wins, it was wagered like $20,000, and Grimes won. And of course, Knight, being a sore sport, attacked DiBiase and Grimes after the match. And there we have it. So that's this match for me is definitely one of the things I'm looking forward to on Sunday. Overall, a solid card, but it's been a fun storyline. I expected this to be kind of the culmination here. John, I know we were talking about it last week, where some interest in seeing DiBiase become Knight's butler, because that would just be pretty unconventional. So while I think that'd be interesting, I feel like they were probably going to go the traditional route of having Grimes win and stand tall of DiBiase to end this on a happy note. Would you agree?
Yeah, that sounds exactly like how it's going to go down.
Yeah, and we got to see kind of maybe a step toward that, where after this match and Grimes attacked them later in the night, Grimes and DiBiase were backstage, and Grimes had his kind of his waking up moment where he's like, I'm not a butler, I'm a champion. He ripped off the butler clothes, and the old Cameron Grimes is back, or at least the Grimes we had seen before he became a butler is back. The good guy Grimes, and the energetic Grimes or whatever. That to me kind of indicated that he will likely win on Sunday and win the title there. So I'd like to see that. I think again, if that is kind of the end of this feud with LA Knight, maybe they'll find other people to challenge for his title and make it like an unofficial title, I guess, just a way to kind of have DiBiase maybe be on the show sometimes, or just to give Grimes something to do, with this prestigious title. So I wouldn't mind seeing that. As for who, I don't really know. Obviously, they definitely have a pretty deep roster. I'm sure they could find any number of people. So yeah, I'm enjoying the storyline. I think it's time to end it. So definitely looking forward to hopefully seeing Grimes win on Sunday. So that's another thing to look forward to. We got a brief interview exchange, or kind of split screen interview with Raquel Gonzalez and Dakota Kai. They'll be facing off on Sunday for the women's title. Not too much to break down here, other than Raquel saying, "Oh, I saw your betrayal, coming a mile away," and then Dakota was like, "Well, it happened. Like, if you saw it coming, like, you would have kind of had it scouted." And Raquel kind of called Dakota a sidekick. Yeah, pretty fun stuff here. I've been saying nothing groundbreaking here in terms of just the driving home the story of the match being that Dakota became the sidekick, even though that's what Raquel had been. So this is either Raquel's chance to really prove that she's not a sidekick, or Dakota Kai's chance to really cement herself as a top star individually. So again,
man, I gotta think here that this is the most unpredictable match on the card. What do you think?
Yeah, because we've been saying for a couple weeks that this feels more than any other women's title match for NXT recently unpredictable, in the sense that the other ones we've seen have felt kind of like shoo-ins, pretty clear that that Gonzalez would win. Here, it's much more could go either way. It's like Kai could win, maybe even should win, right? That she hasn't had that run as a singles champion yet. Even if like that's not even speculating about Raquel moving up to the main roster, but maybe having them feud over the title, maybe Raquel winning it back at some point. I mean, I think there definitely be some merit to that, and kind of having Raquel become the challenger again rather than champion. I mean, I think that'd be. I don't know. I think I'd like to see that, where she's been so unstoppable, maybe give her a setback and see how she deals with that. I mean, that's kind of story time 101 for me. Stephen Chambers wondering if Dakota could have some backup. And Raquel kind of hinted at that one point tonight. She said, like, there's nobody like me. And they kind of maybe vaguely planted that seed. And I wouldn't necessarily expect that, but definitely something to consider. But yeah, I think there's a chance, a fairly good chance that Dakota could win. So, what do you think? Well, do you think there's either one's favored necessarily?
I would probably say Raquel's the favorite to win, but personally, I kind of think that Dakota's going to come out on top. But it's really hard to say here.
Yeah. I think if Raquel does win, that'll be kind of a nice way to really. I mean, not that she needs it, even just like this could be like kind of a signature win for her, because as what I just said, her other wins, felt inevitable and they were kind of like not very suspenseful. It's like you kind of figured, okay, even though they built up Xia Li, Mercedes Martinez, whoever it might be, Ember Moon, they didn't really feel like legitimate challengers, but Dakota Kai feels like she could take the belt. So maybe that'd be kind of a indicator that no, she is the brand's like top champion, and maybe once she gets past her, I'd kind of expect that she would probably hold the title for a while. So yeah, I mean, this is another example. It's like it's an unpredictable title match. This like the NXT title match itself. It's this is what you want, right? You want that unpredictability. You want that hard to guess what's going to happen, because then you have to watch it and kind of watch how it unfolds. So I like that.
You're getting what you asked for, really.
Yeah, exactly, right. So. Otherwise, and maybe this is on the contrary, you'd have the NXT Breakout Tournament. We know that Odyssey Jones will be in the finals. We saw that last week. Tonight, we saw Carmelo Hayes punch his ticket to the finals by beating Duke Hudson. I think this became pretty clear that it would these two guys were kind of the favorites, or maybe the best in the tournament, or at least some rare charisma and some rare kind of an id factor to him, where Odyssey Jones, great size. Carmelo Hayes, he had a really good debut against Adam Cole, and he faced Kushida as well. So, I think either guy winning would be good. I think they both have a lot to offer NXT. I can't help but think of the stuff we've been hearing about NXT, maybe valuing big guys again, or not valuing, but kind of preferring big guys again. And in that old school sense, maybe Odyssey Jones wins and he gets kind of positioned, as I said, and I think it was a week or two ago, as the kind of the new Bronson Reed. I think I could see that happening. But I think that's a good match. We got to see Carmelo Hayes win here. Fun match, not much to it. And after the match, he had a brief promo where he said, like, it's like a video game. Now he's got to face the final boss. But wait, he is the final boss. And then Odyssey Jones came out and kind of laughed it off. And they talked some trash and signed up that match for next week. Kind of similarly to the 6-man tag. You could probably put this on TakeOver on Sunday, but then by putting it on the show on next Tuesday, all the more reason to tune in. So, not too much to complain about there. Do you think either one of these guys is favored? Or are you rooting for either one of them? What do you think about this tournament final?
Odyssey Jones in both instances. I think he will win, and I also want him to win. I think he's been a very good, entertaining act or character. I've seen him in the dark match at SmackDown in Cleveland. He was over with the crowd. He was a pretty good performer. I think it's just an all-around solid choice here. Although I must say, Duke Hudson, he is huge. He is way bigger than I thought he was. Of course, it didn't really seem to mean much, but I still think he has a bright future.
I think I saw a couple people tweeting that, like, if these reports about NXT really preferring big guys again, for all we know, a month or two down the road, Duke, we saw Carmelo win on it, but maybe Duke Hudson will be North American champion in 2 months, and then none of it will really matter anyway. I'm trying to remember. Duke Hudson was formerly, I think, Brendan Vink, who was on Raw very briefly. So clearly, the powers that be like him. He's got the size, got a good look. So it feels like even though he lost to, he's probably got a fairly good, standing on NXT because of that size, because he kind of fits that mold for what yeah, I guess even in the old school sense that they really look for. So I'm sure that he'll be just fine. Especially if he sticks around and gets a good feud or whatever. Stephen Chambers saying that Odyssey should win. He reminds him of Keith Lee. Another good comparison there. Keith Lee is one comparison. Mark Henry is another. Bronson Reed for a more kind of contemporary example there. I think he's got a great size. Seems like a kind of fun energy, good charisma there. So I think if he wins, he could definitely kind of enjoy a pretty, as the name suggests, a kind of a breakout run on NXT here. So I think it'll be a bit of a fun clash of styles. So obviously, Odyssey Jones, big guy, Kamal Hayes, athletic, smaller guy. I think it'll be a fun match to watch there. So definitely something to look forward to as well. And one brief thought here from DJ Tessier asking, we saw a promo or kind of a video vignette for JC Jane. She's been on the show. He was asking if she could debut and help Kai win. She's been kind of like aligned with Gigi Dolan and Rhea Mixon. It seems like they're kind of building the tag team for the women's tag division here very slowly here. Not really too much to say. She had a promo about kind of like breaking free after being kind of like caged or held down. We saw kind of we had a promo last week for Gigi Dolan, so it feels like they are setting them up to be this tag team. Even though we haven't seen it for I think 2 or 3 weeks now, they briefly had some interaction with Mandy Rose, so maybe there's something there. But yeah, I mean, I guess I'd expect to see if somebody were to help Dakota Kai, it'd be someone that we haven't seen like this. This feels like they're kind of heading in one clear direction. I don't know if there's really room for that. I don't know. So I do think it's good that they're building up a tag team for the Tag Team Champions. So we're very briefly on the show. It was Io Shirai and Zoe Stark. Brief promo saying they're not friends, even though they ate Chinese food together in a very, very bad segment from what was that? I guess 2 weeks ago at this point. But yeah, the fact they're just in this backstage segment, the backstage segment kind of speaks to the fact that Candice LeRae got hurt, so there's not really a team ready to kind of step up in that sense beyond this potential duo you're building with Dolan and Jane. So more of a reflection on the women's tag division here, but maybe one of the lower points of a otherwise solid. So John, how would you rate the show tonight on a scale of 1 to 10?
Tonight I would give it a 7.25. Pretty solid rating, just a little above average. Solid build to take over. We should expect a very good show this weekend. I'm excited to see what they have going on. And at the same time, just continuing to develop new stars, but thinking that is this going to be the last NXT as we know it for what it's been?
I mean, I don't know. It's so easy to see all these reports and the rumors about NXT changing, and it's always a question of how much truth is there to this, and if it is true, what change are we talking about? Is there going to be any sweeping change, or other ideas or other rumors saying it might be more gradual? It is a good question, right? And definitely the kind of hair trigger response being like, oh, this is going to be the end of NXT as we know it. I'm hopeful that won't be the case. I think NXT is definitely, as you'd expect, that we're doing this NXT show. I like NXT. I think I would argue, kind of like consistently at least my favorite show from WWE. I think the booking's better, the wrestling is on par, if not better. Sometimes, it's a good show. I don't think they need to make any sweeping change, and if they do, I hope that they kind of maintain the things that still make NXT great. I mean, I hope that they maintain the booking that they've got going. I don't know. I hope that this is not the NXT as we know it. It sounds dramatic, and I hope that any changes might be at the very least gradual. I think anything too sweeping would be very, very jarring. So, but definitely that makes this weekend's takeover, along with some of these other things. Adam Cole's contract, there's other things as well. Definitely not just worth watching. It's worth watching anyway, but extra noteworthy in terms of all these things kind of surrounding the show and the matches on the card. So for me, I would agree. Fun episode, very much carried by the Index engagement. I enjoyed that a lot. Good matches, good stuff, good hype for TakeOver. I'd probably agree with probably like a 7.5 for me. Stephen Chambers giving me a 7. Herman Dakar the 6. Kevin Taylor with an 8. John, our DJ saying that if John's right on that, it was a 9.4 tonight. Nando with a 7.4 canines, and DJ emphasizing his 9.4. So people seem pretty happy with the show, and I guess I'll ask John, if you had to pick one match for the TakeOver card that you're really looking forward to more than the others, what would it be?
Oh boy. I'm gonna have to say Samoa Joe back in action, hoping that he can bring home a victory. But the real question that I have for you is, which match will close the show as the main event?
That's tough because literally the name of Cole and O'Reilly is an undisputed finale, so there's something to be said for that. But traditionally, you've got more often than not, you'd expect to see the main title main event of the show. Samoa Joe's first match since February. This has been the main story in NXT, arguably. That's tough. I feel like. Well, I guess in a way, if Cole's leaving, maybe they want to give him that send off because he has really carried the brand in a lot of ways. He's been the guy, so maybe to kind of give him one last main event. But at the same time, maybe they want to really, make the most of this Mojo return. That's tough. I'd say that's like a coin flip at this point because, I think there's definitely merit to both. It's tough because I think either way, whichever match does close the show, it'll be hard to kind of. I guess I'll say I think that if you have Colin and O'Reilly go on before the Joe Cross match, that one will feel kind of like a letdown in the sense that those two guys, Colin and O'Reilly, are going to go out there and absolutely steal the show, do a bunch of crazy stuff, near falls as you'd expect, and it's going to be this three stages of hell match. So, but if you have the title match main event. Not to say it's a letdown. I think that'll be great as well, but it'll be very different. That'll be more like a Haas fight, I guess, in a way. And I feel like that'd be just different, right? And I think that for my main events, especially for NXT, you'd expect more of that really high energy, crazy, near falls and all these things. Not to say that we couldn't get that title match, but definitely a good question about which should or could main event. I don't know. I definitely think it'll be one of those matches. DJ Gasse pointed out that it could be the women's title match if they have a big debut in store. I mean, it could happen. I wouldn't necessarily expect that, but you never know. It could happen. If I had to really predict, I would probably prefer the title match main event because of this Mojo return to the ring, but I wouldn't be upset either way. So, going to be a very fun weekend. You've got TakeOver on Sunday, you've got SummerSlam on Saturday, you've got AW Rampage, the first dance on Friday, 2-night Ring of Honor show, an Impact Wrestling show on Friday as well. Literally at whatever company that you root for or you prefer, or that you're quote unquote you're on their team, if you will. Chances are they've got a show this weekend that you can enjoy, and we'll be right here to help you do it. John, you and I here talking about NXT. We'll be here to talk about TakeOver, presumably on Sunday. Not sure we'll figure out the specifics. Because John, of course, will be our boots on the ground for SummerSlam. Definitely a big show there on Saturday. But no matter what, we'll have you guys covered with post shows and news coverage and editorials, all these things. And in the meantime, for the rest of the week, the Diamond Dudes Tattoo to cover all things AEW. Robbie DeFelice and I will be here on Saturday morning to talk about SmackDown and kind of a preview for SummerSlam. We'll figure out the specifics for all the other stuff, but an abundance of wrestling to enjoy this weekend. And, especially as a fan, at least, that makes it easy to do the one thing above all as we do here at WrestleZone. And John, can you tell me what that is?
Just enjoy every second of it.
Absolutely. Thanks for listening, everybody, and enjoy all the wrestling this week.